Have you ever wondered why some people are able to come from the same circumstance, have the same, or at least start out with the same resources, and for some reason, some people are able to get further ahead in life, and other people struggle just to do the minimum? Just to do the minimum. I'm going to answer that question today and show you how you can be the person that comes out on top every single time in your life. I'll see you guys on the other side. Make sure you stay tuned.
Welcome to the Purpose Project, the podcast that elevates your journey to self-discovery and success. Each week, we dive into the transformative power of purpose across three key pillars: performance and achievement, career transitions, and personal transformation. The Purpose Project is not just a podcast, it's your weekly dose of inspiration and guidance. Join us every week as we unravel the secrets of purpose-driven living, and follow the show as we embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation so you can live your life on purpose, not default. Here's your host, author, speaker, purpose coach, and consultant, Jaye Purpose.
Hey, what is going on, good people, and welcome back to another episode of the Purpose Project. As you guys just heard, my name is Jaye Purpose, and what a privilege it is to have you tune in with me today. I consider it to be an honor, and I consider it to be truly one of a kind that you guys have taken the time out of your day to come and listen to me talk about living a life full of intention and purpose, and how we can get closer to that with every single day. Just a quick word of wisdom before we get into the meat of what I want to talk about this week. I just want to say, hey, keep on pushing. You know, I don't know exactly what your situation is and what you're going through, but I do know one thing is that every time we set an intention to do something, disruption almost always follows. Always. For a seed to grow, it has to first die. Like, it has to go into the soil and be planted. And when we're evolving and transforming, we have to go through a similar process where we have to be planted, where we have to actually stop being a seed. And one day we have to make the decision to evolve and to become a plant, to become a tree, to become whatever it is that we're destined to be. So wherever you are in your life, if you aren't where you want to be, it's because you're still going through the process of being planted. Just stay encouraged, stay positive. So this week I have a very specific topic that I want to talk about, in a very specific conversation that's kind of been on my heart. And it is, how do you define the difference between those who are able to obtain what we would deem to be huge levels of success versus other people who come from a similar background, who come from the same, may come from the same town, they may come from same type of family, you know, no father, single parent home, living below the poverty lines. They may come from a place of no resources, no networks, and one person can come out of that situation and they come out of that situation thriving. And then another person comes out of the exact same situation, but they live a completely different type of lifestyle. How does that happen? And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about that difference, and I want to talk about how we, as people who are seeking to live a better life, a stronger life, to become better versions of ourselves each and every single day, how can we be the people that come out on top? How can we be the people that succeed even against the odds? And, you know, it really all comes down to a matter of the way that we think. And if we take that and ball it up, right, and just put it into one word, that one word would be perspective. That's it, perspective. It comes down to a matter of perspective. If you ever heard the saying of, you don't see life the way it is, You don't see life the way that it is. Instead, you see life the way that you are. And that is your perspective. It's your perception of the way life is supposed to go. It's your perception of the things that you've deemed to be the way that the world works. And it really has no correlation with the way the world actually works. Instead, it's about how we've interpreted the situations and experiences that we have gone through. And now we're going throughout our life every single day, living our life according to those experiences that we have embedded into our subconscious. And now it rules our life day in and day out. So this is what I want you to know, and this is how we can kind of get out of this. What I want to do is kind of paint a model of different types of perspectives or perceptions, rather, that people may have about the world and about how it operates around them. So essentially, there are three, like, let's just boil it down, make it as simple as possible. There are three different types of perspectives that you can have. That's simple. Here's the first. The first I call obstruction. Here's what that means. Back in the day, when I was in grade school probably, we had this program called DARE. And DARE was this drug prevention program where local police officers would come out and they would give us lectures and they would talk to us, give us pamphlets, and they would talk to us about driving drunk and, saying no to drugs and things like that. But they had this one example, or exercise is a better word for it. They had this one exercise where they would take this pair of goggles. They would put the goggles on you, and the goggles made your vision extremely distorted. And then they would spin you around before they put the goggles on you. They would spin you around maybe 10 to 20 times. And they would turn music on so it was like really loud. And they would have you walk this straight line. And then, so after they spin you and tell you, hey, okay, walk the straight line, obviously nobody can walk the straight line. They're called drunk goggles, and they're called drunk goggles for a reason. They make you feel like you're drunk when you put them on. And when the police officer spins you around, it makes it even that much more difficult to walk the straight line and to feel as if you're coherent. And that is how a lot of us walk around in our life. I believe you have an obstructed perspective regarding the way the world works when you believe something that is in direct opposition to truth. And what I mean is, let's say it is a truth that the world has gravity, that the earth has gravity on it. And we all know and believe that the earth has gravity. We know that to any common person who has any type of common sense, they know and understand that our earth has gravity and it pulls us toward the center of the earth. But let's say somebody believed in the exact opposite, that there was no gravity, that we all could float. They would be walking around with an obstructed perspective of how the world works. Now that example sounds ludicrous, but look, there's so many thousands of different situations and different scenarios that we can find ourselves in that we already have preconceived notions about and we already have ideals about. And what we do is we bring our beliefs into those situations. And our beliefs could be just as wrong as somebody who believes that the earth doesn't have gravity. Now imagine going into a relationship with a belief that is obstructed. Imagine going into a marriage with a belief that obstructs your view of the truth. Imagine going into parenthood with the belief that obstructs your view of the way you really should be as a parent. Imagine going into the job. Imagine going into and being a business owner, being a CEO, being a grandparent, being a minister. Imagine going into every different role and aspect of your life, and you have an obstructed view of the way that thing really works. Think about how that would prevent you. Think about going throughout your entire life with a pair of drunk goggles on and feeling as though you had just been spun around 10 to 20 times. Like, imagine how much more difficult that would make it. Even though you come from the same city, you went to the same school, you had the same friends as somebody who lives a completely different life than you, a completely better life than you. What you would deem to be better, of course. But they've reached a different pinnacle of success than you. And you're like, well, why? The reason is because of perspective. It's because of perception. It's the way that you see the world around you. And I am telling you, the people who struggle the most and the people who have not reached the levels and pinnacles of life and achievement that they want to is because they're walking around with an obstructed perspective of life, of principles, of standards, of preferences, and that is preventing them from achieving what it is that they truly want to achieve. Now, there's also a second perspective called the perspective of obscurity. Now, obstruction is pretty obvious, right? There's something literally in front of you that's blocking your view. That's why I like the example of the drunk goggles. Like, you literally have something on you that is obstructing your vision and preventing you from being able to properly see. Now, when something is obscure, it's a little bit different. It's uncertain. It's not exactly clear. You can see it a little bit, but there's no clarity in your understanding. So you really can't see the truth to really get to the point of what a lot of philosophers and, some of the greatest thinkers of our time will call enlightenment, which is when you are fully exposed to and believe in the truth, versus deception, which is the exact opposite of enlightenment. It's when you believe in a lie. So obscurity, some of us walk throughout life and we're kind of on that neutral ground. We aren't necessarily struggling. Life isn't necessarily hard. It isn't as rocky. It isn't as much of a stumble as it would be if we had on a pair of drunk goggles, so to speak. But let's say you had on like a pair of sunglasses and there's absolutely no sun outside. You can still see, but things are still uncertain. Or here's a better example. If you've ever been running late for work, especially if you're from like the Midwest or the East Coast, where it can get pretty cold during the winter season, in the winter months. So you go outside in the morning and your front windshield is completely frosted over, like it's frozen over. You got to go through the whole process where you're trying to defrost your windshield. And if you're like me, you're running almost late for work, so you got to go. So you turn your defrost on blast. You have it all the way up, and you're waiting for the windows to defrost so you can drive, so you can at least see it a little bit. And typically what will happen is within the first couple of minutes, you'll have a small window at the bottom of your windshield. You can't see throughout the entire thing at all, but there's a small pocket at the bottom that you can like tilt your head down where your nose is almost on the dashboard, and you can look through this small circle while the rest of the window is defrosting, and you can see out of it. Your vision is obscured, so you can still see, but you can only see a pocket. Like, you can't see to your left and to your right. You can't see your blind spots while you're driving, so it's very dangerous. Some of us are going through life like that. We have beliefs where we may have been even exposed to the truth, but it's difficult for us to believe in them because of past traumas and because of past experiences that we've dealt with that have impacted us so strongly and so much that that they don't they don't allow us to be able to fully see the truth, to fully be enlightened. So they stop us and they prevent us from being able to see fully. But we're, of course, we're still going throughout life because time never stops. So what we have to do is we have to adjust, look through this small window of truth where we're still blind to a lot of things that are hitting us. So we may get hit with certain trials, and we may get hit with certain tribulations that we're not able to understand. Why are we still going through all of these things? Because it feels like I'm striving to be the best person that I can be. It feels like I'm still doing all the right things. It feels like I should be a lot further than where I am right now because I've been putting in more work than the person next to me. If you can relate to that, it's because your perception may be obscure. You may need to go back and do some shadow work. You may need to be fully released from past traumas that may still be preventing you from having the ability and the skill to put in the work that's really required to free up your spirit and to free up your heart from the past traumas and beliefs that are still holding you back, that are still causing you to have certain doubts, to have certain fears, to have indecision, to have anger, to all these emotions that are causing more resistance and stopping you from being able to become the person that God truly wants you to be. That's the perspective of obscurity. And then I also believe that there's a last perspective called the perspective of observation. And this is kind of like putting on a pair of prescription glasses. And I'll never forget this story either. When I played basketball since I was around 9, but I didn't start wearing glasses until my senior year of high school. And I didn't even know that I couldn't see until one day my uncle told me, he saw me squinting at the television, and he said, "Man, I think you might need some glasses." And I'm like, "Glasses? Like what? Why would I need glasses, you know?" And turns out my vision was so bad. I'm like, most people know 20/20 is the best vision that you can have. I had, I believe it was 50, 110 or somewhere around there. So my vision was way off from um, what the standard is, from what it really should be. It was way off, and I didn't even know, which is the craziest part. I wasn't even aware, but when I put the glasses on, I just remember I walked into school, senior year of high school, had them glasses on. Everything was so different. Like, I remember being in class and what was on the board was completely, it just looked like, it was like being in a different world. I could see the board. I remember going to basketball practice and the rim looked different. My friends looked completely different. The way the school looked felt way different when I walked inside. Everything was a little bit brighter. Everything was just so different, and it was all because I had on a pair of glasses that were tailor made for the way that I see the world. And I believe that there is a pair of almost like a spiritual pair of prescription glasses completely tailored for your spirit, for everything that you have gone through, for all the traumas that you have faced, for all of the experiences that you have been exposed to that may cause you to believe and act in a way that is in accord with past experiences that do not align with the truth, that don't align with the way the world is really supposed to work. And when you put on those glasses, when you decide to go through the pain of making a transformation, you it's like that transformation is the key that allows you to unlock a new identity, which is you putting on those glasses and you can see the world in a completely different way. And when you look at the world in the way that it's supposed to be looked at, everything changes for you. I think of, and then um, I'll I'll close it out after I say this, but I think of, I watched there's a documentary called The Last Dance about Michael Jordan's last year with the Chicago Bulls, which was his second three-peat, and it was right before he retired, of course, for the second time. But in this TV show, series, or whatever you want to call it, I'm watching this documentary, and throughout the entire doc, it's full of Hall of Fame basketball players: Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant. I mean, you name it. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Reggie Miller. This is all the greats are in this documentary, and they all, every last one of them, are like worshiping Michael Jordan for how good he was when he played. But this was the thing that got me. When I was watching it, I was trying to understand why, what was different about Michael Jordan. Like, I'm watching all these Hall of Fame players, I'm listening to them talk about that time, and I'm listening to their conversation about their experience. I'm trying to compare it to Michael Jordan talking about his experience, and I'm saying, what is the difference? And when I tell you the main difference, like the main difference, it is simply a matter of perspective. That's it. Like, that's it. If you want to say what separates this player from Michael Jordan, who was the best player, arguably the best player to ever lace up a pair of sneakers, it's just perspective. It's just the way that he looked at the game. It's the way he looked, the way that he chose to see, and the way that, and the principles that he chose to believe about how he's supposed to operate around the game, which makes up his perspective of how he sees himself and the game. That was the only difference. For example, you listen to him talk about how he, like, what his skills meant to him and to the game. He's the only player in that entire documentary that said he never, not one time, doubted and lost confidence in his game. Didn't matter who they was playing against, who he was lined up across from. It didn't matter what the score was. It didn't matter what quarter it was. It didn't matter what court he was playing on. It didn't matter what anybody said to him. It didn't matter if he was injured. He never, not one time, lost confidence and showed any doubt while he was on that court and while he was off that court. Every other player that came up on the TV screen, you name any player that ever played in the NBA, they had moments of doubt. They had moments of fear. They had moments of indecision. I'm telling you, not once in the entire documentary did he bring up anything even remotely similar to showing an inkling of doubt. And that has to do with your perspective. It's something about his upbringing that causes him to believe in himself to such a degree that nobody else who's ever played the game can believe in themselves in that same way. He has the skill and the ability to be able to eliminate fear, doubt, and indecision. His perspective about the game, the principles that he believed in, were so strong and so much in alignment with truth. Everything about discipline, everything about hard work, everything aligned with truth to such a degree that he never doubted himself. And it sounds even insane to say, but that is what the separator was. And what I want to say to you is, as I get ready to close this thing out for today, I want to say to you that you have the ability to get out of an obstructed perspective. You have the ability to overcome obscurity. You have the ability to believe in principles and to set a standard for yourself that aligns you with truth, that gives you full enlightenment to the way the world works. And that goes with whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to be a singer, if you want to be a basketball player, if you want to be a coach, if you want to be a teacher, if you want to be in the military, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a motivational speaker, if you want to be an author, it doesn't matter what you want to do. You want to be an A&R for a record label. I don't care what you want to do. If you align yourself with a perspective, if you give yourself a perspective, if you choose to have a perspective and see things in a way that aligns your beliefs, your principles, and your standards with truth, with the truth about discipline, about persistence, about consistency, with the truth about taking accountability for yourself. If you have that kind of perspective, I promise you, I guarantee you that will be what separates you from the people who never grow, from the people who never achieve what they want to achieve, from the people who never do the things that they say that they're going to do, from the people that live lives of mediocrity and that are average. That's the separator, just having the right perspective. That's all it is. And even though it's easy for me to sit here and say, hey, it's all about perspective, it is a process. It is a process I definitely understand, and I can acknowledge that it's a process to go from one perspective to another. It's not easy. It takes that transformation, and that transformation always takes time. It always takes patience. It takes pain. When you think about anybody who's transformed their body, they had to go through tons of pain and patience. It takes time, and you have to go to the gym. Every time you go to the gym and you lift weights, every time you do a push-up, a step-up, a lunge, you tear down the muscle fibers, and it is literal pain. And you literally have to employ patience. So I understand and recognize that it is a challenge. It is not easy. But if it was easy, everybody would do it. And because it's not easy, that's why everybody isn't doing it. And it gives you the opportunity and the privilege to be able to stand out from the rest. So it's only a matter of perspective. Let me say, lastly, I believe in you. I believe in what it is that you want. I believe in what it is that you stand for, and I believe that you have greatness inside of you. And if you've been listening to this the entire time, you deserve to hear that. I touch and I agree with you on your vision for your life. If nobody else has done it for you, I touch and I agree with you. And let's hold you accountable. Let's hold you accountable to the next level. Let's hold you accountable to taking on that new identity. I heard somebody say last week, we don't chase goals, we chase identities. Because if you don't become the person that can accomplish the goal, you won't get to it anyways. So you don't chase the goal. You chase the identity that can accomplish the goal and get you to it. So I hold you accountable to becoming the person that God has destined you to be. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you lasted to this point. I hope this word was a blessing to you, and I hope you can take it and apply it to your life. My name is Jaye Purpose. Until next time, make sure you live on purpose and not on default. Catch you later.
Thanks for tuning in to The Purpose Project. We hope this episode provided value for you and moved you one step closer to a purpose-driven life. Be sure to check out the show notes for any important links and resources for your pursuit toward a life full of meaning. One thing that would help the show tremendously is to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review, letting Jay and everyone else know what you think of the show, so we can better serve you. And if there's anybody that you know who could benefit from this podcast, make sure to give them a nudge in our direction. As always, live on purpose, not default. We'll see you next time.